have 5 candidates who submitted nomination papers, which is a wonderful thing. Makes it harder for us, but that's a good thing also. We selected their names, or town staff selected their names out of a hat to pick the order in which we're going to ask people to speak tonight. We've set aside time for each candidate to have a sort of an opening statement, if they would, followed by some questions from the council. We'll move through the list. If we don't finish the interview process by the end of the workshop, we will carry it over into tonight's meeting. I guess before we begin, we will allow for public comment at the end after we've heard from all the candidates. And the workshop will end promptly at 6:50 so that we have a few minutes before we start our 7 o'clock meeting. Anyone have any questions? All right, then I'll ask Mr. Robinson to come speak first.
Hello, council members and town manager Foley. My name is Levi Robinson. I'm 36 years old and I live in Gray with my wife and 16-month-old son. A little bit about me is, for as long as I can remember, numbers have always been my strong suit. My career path that began with auditing wasn't really a natural progression from my mathematical background. It was an opportunity that fell into my lap, but that's where I discovered my passion for government. Interaction with finance directors led me to realize that that side of the desk was where I could eventually see myself settling down someday. Travel was a big component of audit work, so the birth of my son was the catalyst that led me to move on from auditing and settle down at my position in the town of Wyndham. My interaction with council and select boards has been primarily of me presenting the audit and fielding questions, which should make me feel right at home with the next part of this. That being said, it's actually from watching council meetings or reading council meeting minutes that I've gleaned what I consider to be skills or attributes very important of being an effective council member. Council seems to function best when it's composed of members with a complementary set of skills, so that a diverse set of viewpoints can be considered prior to arriving at an ultimate decision. Beyond that, unbiased objectivity is especially important, and oftentimes I've seen it result in a council member conducting hours of their own research in their personal time to ensure that they are making the best decision for the people. Council is the ultimate purchasing authority within the town. Checks don't go out the door unless it's signed off by council. For this reason, I feel it's especially important to have real attention to detail when going through a warrant or the formal bidding process, so that questions can be asked as needed prior to signing off on either of those. Asking questions might as well have been my job title as an audit manager, and it's certainly still part of my role in Wyndham. One of the prevailing ideas of government is that it's designed to be an efficient vehicle of spend to provide services to the townspeople at a value that they couldn't achieve by themselves. The council is effectively the driver of this vehicle, and it's for that reason that I feel my financial background would be extremely valuable to have as a council member. I look forward to answering any questions you may have.
Thank you. Ian, do you want to kick us off?
So you actually just answered one of my questions, which was, or partially answered it, I should say, about kind of the role of the council. And I'm curious if you have any, like the top, beyond if, helping the town figure out how to do things as efficiently as possible and as cost effectively as possible. Can you talk about some other priorities that you see the town, that are really important to the town at this point?
Well, I would say that, like I said, I've already kind of touched a little bit on that, like you said. But really, you've got to, you've got a long-term plan, and getting there, essentially, and following that as effectively as possible, because you don't want to be, burdening the taxpayer further than you have to in order to achieve those goals. So it's kind of the effect, the whole reply I have for that.
Okay, thanks.
Krista.
So I guess it's just a simple question. This is a 7-month appointment till our next June election, at which point there would be an election to fill the remainder of the term, which would be 1 year. Just curious if you would be interested in pursuing the election and the position after this 7-month appointment.
So I think it would be silly for me to apply and not consider that. For me, it's really just about whether that's going to be a survival for me with a 16-month-old, but I'm sure it will. It's, 2 days of the month. It's not a big deal. It actually comes, so I end up working until 6, in Wyndham. Usually I'll stay a little later anyway, so I can come right here after that, and it should be fine. So yes, I would intend to do that, knowing that I apply.
Thank you.
I apologize.
It's all right.
It's got that little thing called work gets in the way once in a while.
I'll give you,
As it sounds like.
Yep.
give you a minute to get settled.
No problem.
When you reviewed the comp plan,
Yeah.
what aspects sort of jumped out the most to you?
Honestly, it's a little bit of a blur for me, still getting acclimated to Wyndham. But I'm a quick study when it comes to those things, so I don't want to tell you something that I've potentially intermingled with Wyndham's, which I'm sure is a concern of yours. But as I step into that, I think in my initial remarks, the researching of the particular issues on the agenda, making sure I'm up to speed with that is certainly something that I will more than do to make sure that I'm sufficiently knowledgeable about whatever we're going to talk about. So I don't want to tell you anything here that potentially is intermingled with Wyndham right now.
Sure, I appreciate that. Mike, do you have a question?
Yeah, just, and I apologize for being late. And, I think I broke every speed limit on the way here. And you probably answered this already, but why you?
So I'm a unique candidate, and I said this when I originally was applying for a town position in Wyndham, because you don't really find many former municipal auditors walking around. So I think it provides a very unique skill set. You can find certainly financial people, but auditing in itself is a very different and unique skill set that I think it lends itself very well to council.
Thank you.
Krista?
Yes, I'd just like you to speak a little bit to your time at RHR auditing. Did you work, which municipalities did you work with, or did you have experience? We were a former client.
I know you're a former client, so I've looked at Town of Gray's audit back then because I was obviously a Gray resident, but I never worked on the Town of Gray's audit. I've done many of the largest school departments. I had about probably 50-50 selection of towns, some smaller, some larger. RSU 6 was probably the biggest town. Penobscot Indian Nation, a very wide variety of clients in that respect, but plenty of towns, mostly further up north. Not too many in this area, Baldwin, Hollis, those kind of things.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'd just like to, maybe this is maybe more of an observation, but it would be helpful to have you respond to it. So we do have 2 meetings a month, most months. Some months we only meet once.
Yep.
But we also, as council members, are liaisons to town committees, and so those meet other nights during the month. And sometimes we have workshops like tonight that start at 5 or usually 5:30. Sometimes 6. So, I mean, that's another question is given a really demanding job that you have in Wyndham, is that getting off early going to be a problem for you?
They're very flexible with whether it's personal life or, to this, they're very flexible. So that's as easy as I can say that. I don't think it's going to be a problem. I'm here.
Thanks.
Mike?
No,
No, also. Are you familiar with the council's rules? Have you had a chance to
I did
those?
review, and I primarily spent most of my time on the charter when I was reviewing it.
Yeah.
But I am familiar with them. A lot of those documents across municipalities are relatively similar, but obviously there are specifics to.
The council has rules, and sort of sort of social decorum is built into our rules, and the use of social media as it relates to your role in a councilor if you're selected. Are you familiar with that portion of the?
Yeah, I'm not a big social media user, period, so it's not going to be a problem no matter what. But I am familiar with it, not only just from that, but I've seen the bad side of other municipalities and social media and council members saying things that maybe shouldn't be said, so not going to be a problem with me.
Okay. Anyone else?
No, I think you covered most of my questions. So.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, great.
All right, thank you very much, Levi.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Our next candidate is Vincent Blanche. Am I saying that correct?
You are.
Oh, there we go.
You are. Thank you.
Point for me.
Okay. Beautiful. So good evening. My name is Vincent Palangi, and I am a resident of the town of Gray, and I've lived here for almost 20 years. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you this evening. I'm a Mainer who grew up in Lewiston. My family instilled in me a strong work ethic. Had my first job at 14 working in a bakery. I had lost my dad at a young age, and as we struggled to stay above the poverty line, you will understand the relentless individual I have become today, as I am not shy about adversity, and I do not give up easily. I attended St. Joseph's College just down the road in Standish, where I was an honors graduate and have a business degree with a concentration in marketing. In June, I retired after decades of work, and I'm looking to bring my professional experience here to the town of Gray, and my desire is to support your efforts. I previously served a term on the Gray Zoning Board of Appeals back in 2006. I want to take this opportunity to talk about my professional career a little bit with you. I worked almost 12 years at Airborne Express DHL, which is a transportation company like FedEx and UPS. And my last role with the organization, I ran a $53 million operation that combined Rochester and Buffalo, New York. This was my fourth role with the company and my third promotion in just 6 years due to my ability to get things done. My skill set allows me to quickly grasp new information, handle pressure, and effectively develop, implement, and fully execute both short and long-term programs, whether it be procedural, logistical, or sales-orientated. In 2003, I was recruited into the medical field due to my prior success, and like many of you, I am always looking for ways to better myself. The demands of my specialty were high. After weeks of home training, I would go away for a month for additional training, and if I failed any 2 of 12 exams that were administered, I would be out of the program and out of a job. I sadly watched 4 of my counterparts fail that second test. My reason for saying that is I want you to know that I can perform very well under pressure. During my time with Medtronic, I was responsible for the training of surgeons in the operating room on the proper use, handling, and application of advanced surgical staplers during surgery, which, as you can imagine, requires a unique skill set, including high levels of both technical knowledge and communication skills. I also managed all aspects of the territory growth, continuously working on multiple short and long-term projects, and handling negotiations as well as strategic relationships for over 35 hospitals in Maine. I have worked with hundreds of surgeons, staff, and other critical hospital employees, including C-suite, and my communication skills reflect this. Over my 20 years with Medtronic, I grew the territory from $1.8 million to over $12 million. That's an increase of over 600%. My purpose in discussing this information is to show you I have a long and successful history of getting things done, and that my ability to focus on a problem, remain calm and even keel under any situation has served me well and could serve the town council well. Like you, Ann, I want to see the Gray Village revitalized. I feel Gray is a truly beautiful place, and if managed properly, this town has so much potential. And Mike, I also see the importance of getting others in the community involved and engaged. Krista, like you, I feel is important to approach things with an open mind and get input from all sides before making decisions that will affect the residents of our community. And Dan, like you, I am also very detailed orientated. When you instruct a surgeon on the operating room on how to use a device that will be applied to the body of a patient on the table, you can only be flawless. I want to thank each of you for allowing me to attend the recent Gray Town Council workshop, which was open to everyone, as I learned a lot during those 4 hours. I'm a firm believer that if you cannot take the time or make the effort to learn about a position before you are even in it, how motivated can you be once you are in it? I look forward to having an opportunity to learn from each of you, support you in your various projects, as well as learn from your years of experience. I had a print on my office wall that showed a used up pencil, and it says, "Now that we've exhausted all possibilities, let's get started." That's what you'll get with me. In closing, if you are truly looking for someone with strong people skills and a wealth of experience for the town council, please consider my application to fill this position. I appreciate your time and thank you.
Thank you very much. Ann, you want to start us off again?
I'm going to ask the same question, I think,
Yep.
for each of the candidates. And what, what are, you sort of mentioned a few things that you're interested in. Could you just talk, what do you think are the top 2 to 3 priorities or challenges that you'd like to pursue?
Sure. You know, I think my approach is a little different than everybody else's, especially after attending that town workshop. You folks have a lot of things you've been working on short and long term, and I feel that my best asset would be to come in, to learn from each of you, and to see the projects that you're working on and to help bring those to fruition. I just see adding other things would be a distraction, and to me, I feel I'm here to learn initially from you folks and help bring those things forward, and I think maybe I could bring some different perspectives and some ideas to maybe make those a little bit sharper and better. But really, when I come in, I think that, to me, is my focus, is to really learn from you, to grow, and to understand all the duties of what we're doing here.
Thanks.
Krista?
Vincent, you spoke a lot about how you're good at getting things done and your attention to detail. Could you speak a little bit to how you feel the council is supposed to be interacting with staff, whose job it is to actually get things done here? Because we have a lot of professional staff who do the day-to-day tasks of running our town, whereas the council generally is a more strategic body of policy setting. So I want to hear from you, like, what your expectations are.
Sure. I think, I find it's the old saying, if you come in, you don't have any expectations, you never get let down. Mm-hmm. And so for me, again, part of it is a learning process to learn from you what works and doesn't. One of the things I feel that I have a strong suit on, and probably on anybody else that's here today, is, again, a lot of the people here have, maybe things in doing workflow management or auditing. My career every day has been very frontline. I'm a very customer facing, so I work with hundreds of people every year and every month and going through things. So I feel my strength would be going in and really learning about what people are doing, how they're doing it, and just listening and finding ways to do better, taking my years of experience on everything I've done. I mean, I've worked on tons of councils, on tons of projects, from taking a product from conception to development to implementation. And in my field, I'm the one implementing it, so I'm the one on the front line. And again, I would go in, I'd really like to learn. It's obviously very interesting, and now that I'm retired, I have the time to do it. I feel that this is a very time-intensive position if you really want to do it right, and that's kind of why I waited till I retired to come here. But again, I think for me would be to go around. I'd love to learn about what they're doing, hear from them, understand them, and see if we can, maybe help them be more effective. So, yes.
Thank you.
Mike?
I really have the same. But first of all, for everyone that came, I apologize for being late again, and I want to make this. It's great that we had so many candidates. I ran back in June. There were 2 seats open. Ann and I both ran. She beat me by 144 votes, I think, but I still won. With that said, I appreciate everyone offering to step up, and we need more people. So my question to you, Vince, is just why you instead of everybody else?
Sure. A very fair question. Again, I think to effectively contribute to this position, especially when you first start, you need more time. There's a lot of material to learn and get into. And one of the things, again, everybody has their way of thinking. My way of thinking is, you hear somebody that says they've done something 1,000 times. Well, it's not experience if you've done it the wrong way. So for me, I really want to come here and learn from you folks. And I feel like I have the time to put that commitment in to do not only the regular events, but do the special things that need to be done, as well as to delve in and get deeper into the materials so that I can get caught up and learn. I also feel that for me personally, I see the other people that did submit resumes, and they've got some great experience, but I call it in a lane. You're doing something in a lane where my experience has been very vast. I mean, Medtronic is a $32 billion company, and I've met with doing all kinds of projects and different things on how to streamline things, how to make things more effective, how to present things to surgeons, how to bring in new products and do the training program. So for me, I just feel like I have a lot to bring based on my 30 plus years of experience. And again, I have the time to do it.
Thank you.
I'm gonna start with the same question I did on the first round, which you'll all get the chance to answer, which is, in your reading of the comp plan,
Sure.
what parts of that sort of spoke to you the loudest? The comp plan had pretty overwhelming support of the community. We have the charter, we have our council rules, which are, just, charter certainly is a legal document we have to follow, but the comp plan really is that long-term, far-sighted goal, so I'm curious.
Sure, and I think similar to the other gentleman, I've read through everything, and one of the things that I think is gonna be of value to me is that because of all the experience in the face-to-face and dealing with these, the people that I've dealt with, first of all, I think I'll be really good with the community. I can go out, to Chris's point, you really need to listen to everybody and understand everybody, and I can pop through a crowd of 10 people with 10 different personalities and easily go through that. But again, for me, it comes back to, I see it, it's on paper. I would really like to sit down with you folks individually and really bring that paper to life. What does it really mean? And so to me, I can read through things, and I have read through everything. I've read through the town council, but I want to, like to tell the kids that stack wood at my house, do it right or do it twice. So I'd really like to learn from you folks on how to do those things properly.
Great, thank you. Ann?
So, the pace of change at the, or actions taking place at the municipal level can be kind of different from what happens in the private sector. I mean, it's not, in large companies, it can be equally bureaucratic, but things can happen slowly at the municipal level, and I appreciate your having been in a really high paced, fast-paced, high-pressure situations, but can you just speak to whether or not you would find it frustrating to have to sort of gear back down?
It's at the same time, if you've ever dealt with surgeons, if you think people are set in their ways on doing something, it comes to when I talked about short and long-term projects. I've done some long-term projects where I'll work with somebody that's a thoracic surgeon. I'm asking them to use a device that they haven't used or they've used something else for years on a patient during surgery. It can take time. Part of what I like to do is part of the planning and part of the how am I going to get to point A to point B and be creative. And I like that. It's kind of like, so I look at retirement now. I'm in my retirement. I'm doing financials. And things happen really slow as you look down the line. And what I like about that is I can see the curve way ahead, but I can sit here and I can really make very good decisions because I don't have to go quick. And I think it's, I'm very versatile, put it that way. So I hear what you're saying, but absolutely not. I'm here to help out. I'm here to be part of the team. So yeah, thank you.
Just a question, the same question I'm going to ask everyone, similar to
Sure.
my other counselors. So the seat would be open again in June after this appointment. Would you have intention of running?
100% yes.
Mike?
No, I just had the one question.
Okay. I'm also going to ask my question about social media. The social media responsibilities of a counselor are different than they are of a private citizen in the sense that who we represent. As counselors, I have absolutely no authority whatsoever. If I can get two of these other people to agree with me, then all of a sudden we can get something done. So when you're speaking to people in the public, when I'm speaking to people in the public, I make it really clear that what the counselor's authority is. And I wonder if there's any aspects, if you've had a chance to read through the council rules.
I've breezed over everything, and with regards to social media or anything like that, one strong thing about me, because of the fields I've been in, you only need to tell me once. You tell me what we need to get done, and it's done. And it's as simple as that. Simple as that.
Anybody else? No? One other quick question.
Sure, go right ahead.
You talk about, you talked about being an implementer. Can you talk about your experience from a strategic standpoint or a policy standpoint?
Sure. We do a lot of training, so I'll say policies like before I left, one of the things I was working on is we would have new hires and they would go out into the field, and the training sometimes wasn't as good as it was supposed to be. So what we would do is I would call it a policy or an implementation on how you want to approach a surgeon and the things you want to talk about, because you can't go off label. I can't say, well, this is what it's labeled for, and I can't say, well, Krista, you could use it for that. You can be in a lot of trouble for that. So we've done policies like that where I've helped create and work with other teams on policies on how to guide basically new hires on doing things like that.
Great, okay, thank you very much.
No, I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you so much this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Mr. Wright. Rich, my apologies.
It's a fun name.
People pronounce mine right, but they never spell it right, so it's a different issue.
Oh, I totally get it with the MCA, yeah. Good evening, everyone. It's an honor to be here, even to be considered for town council. My name is Jesse Rich, and I stand before you today as someone who is deeply invested in our town, as a resident, a parent, a worker, and a volunteer. I love Gray, not just for what it is today, but for what it can be tomorrow. That's why I chose to run for this position to the town council, to help shape a community that thrives today and continues to grow and prosper for our families and future generations. First and foremost, I want to serve because I believe in our community's potential. I want to help improve our infrastructure, support local businesses, and enhance community programs. These improvements shouldn't come at a cost of higher taxes, but through thoughtful planning and strategic initiatives. I envision a more connected Gray, where we can enjoy our town by walking or biking safely through its heart, stopping by local businesses, and sharing a strong sense of community. A walkable town center isn't just a concept. It's about giving people a reason to gather. Imagine parking your car, grabbing a coffee, and taking a stroll around Pennellfield, enjoying local events, or simply meeting your neighbors. We already know that places like this, like the library and the transfer station, are our social hubs. But I believe we can build on that foundation and create an environment with more opportunities to connect, to engage, and to celebrate Gray's spirit without adding to our financial burden. My background in customer service, strategic planning, and operations management equips me with the skills necessary to address the community's needs and concerns effectively. I spent years managing projects, listening to people, and bringing their visions to life. This experience taught me to be an empathetic listener, to consider different perspectives, and to deliver practical solutions. I know, being level-headed even when working with strong opinions and differing views, that thick skin and the ability to listen are crucial for public service, qualities I've honed and am ready to bring to the council. As someone who is currently involved in coaching and volunteering, I am always out there, accessible and open to conversations. I know firsthand the power of collaboration and how valuable it is to listen to those around us. When we listen, not to respond, but to understand, we discover the real needs and aspirations of our community. That's what I'm committed to: listening, interpreting, and helping shape policies that align with our shared goals. I've taken the time to study our town's comprehensive plans and engage in conversations about the growth. I've heard from long-term residents who remember how Gray used to be and who want to see the village thrive. I believe we have an opportunity to create more for our town, not just in terms of businesses, but in quality of life. More events, more places to gather, and more reasons for people to come, stay, and contribute. I may not have all the answers, but I bring ideas, dedication, and collaborative spirit. I want to represent the voice, the concerns, and the dream of Gray. I'm ready to work together so we can build a community that reflects the pride we all feel for this town. We can take the next steps to ensure Gray remains a vibrant, welcoming place that we're all proud to call home for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah?
Thanks, Jesse. So I'm going to ask you the same question. So you've talked a lot about, your vision for the town and how what you would bring to the council position.
Mm-hmm.
Are there, and I really, as somebody who's championed the village transformation project, I appreciate your talking about that. And also, doing things in a way that doesn't increase taxes. But I mean, are there other kind of initiatives that you think that you would really champion on the council, or other things that you think the council ought to be doing for the community?
Just being active, the way we've all been, and from doing the Blueberry Festival and creating more of these festivals that we all can be a part of and bring people together. That's the biggest thing that I see right now, starting that slow pace to kind of make us all come together more.
Thank you.
Krista?
Hi, Jesse.
Kristen.
Could you speak a little bit to your time on the Recreation Committee and why you've decided you want to transition to this more time-intensive strategic position? Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I started volunteering with the rec committee only recently when I found out about it. And I learned about the whole committee aspect and sat with Matt and Anthony and all them because I was volunteering with PSC and all these different groups to help the kids have stuff to do and all that. And when I learned about the town council and saw what you guys do and really champion this and sit as liaison, not just to do this one thing, but to do multiple things to help at the festival, to help at the next, and help at the next, and join these groups. It's so much more that I would love to spend my time doing. I was like helping champion these groups to go through.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, my same question. Why you? Why? You've heard a couple other guys speak here. You've got a couple more to go. What sets you apart from them?
Honestly, probably my drive. I'm really passionate about making this town better, the best we can be. I was like, I'm part of it right now and doing everything I can to be involved in every aspect. Like that's the best thing. I don't want to say no one's better or worse, but I think we all want to do the best we can.
I'm going to veer a little bit and follow up on what you just said. And what happens when something gets in the way of that drive or those goals?
What do you mean?
Well, we all bring things to the council. I often talk about how sometimes it feels like we work at a glacial pace compared to what people would like to see us work at.
Mhm.
So there's plenty of room to be frustrated one way or another. And as I said earlier, we need to work together as a group. So how do you deal with that frustration?
You talk. It's a collaborative spirit. You
Yep.
all work together. That's why there's 5. We all have our own opinions and we all have our own guidance. But again, when you listen to each other, everyone's got a point. So you all have to work together to make the best solution you possibly can. Because again, you're all working for the best of the people you can.
Yes, we are trying to pull from the same side of the wagon.
Mhm.
So going to the comp plan then, in your reading of it, what were some of the things that struck you there?
The one thing that really stood out, the comp plan's all about people. It's about growth of the town and making things get. The one thing that kind of got me that I sat there and looked at, I saw the social hubs was the library, the transfer station, but it was missing the high school. Like the games, the community. I go to the games a lot and I see people that have kids, that don't have kids, all going, this great social aspect that's there. So making that one of our other kind of connecting spots through the comp plan, I thought would be a great point of view.
Mhm. Thank you. Ann?
I think that Jesse's addressed some of my other questions with his remarks already.
Okay. Krista?
Just the same question I've asked others. Do you intend to run for this seat in the June election?
It would be an honor.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask the same question about the council rules and, issues there, and especially around the whole social media part of it.
Not at all.
Any questions there?
No, not at all.
Okay. I guess,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
Do you have time?
Yes.
Because as I walk in a few minutes late tonight, it's tough to get here sometimes, especially at the 5 o'clock meetings. And it does take up a lot of time, especially since you have to go to a lot of subcommittees and this, that, and everything else. And it's a lot more time than I expected, which is fine. I just just want to see if you think you'll have the time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
okay. All set?
Yeah.
All
I
right.
was gonna ask that
Thank you very
follow-up,
much.
so yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Jessica.
Next up is Mr. Sherwood.
Well, it's actually great coming up here, being in a good mood, I tell you what. How you guys doing? My name is Derek Shirley. I'm currently on the town ZBA board. I sat on what was called the Maine Cannabis Coalition for 4 years, where we wrote laws and passed laws, and most importantly, blocked laws necessary to protect the small farmers in Maine. I later went on independently to represent people, not just in Maine, the small farmers, but small farmers and patients in New Hampshire and all the way out to Hawaii virtually. I'm very, cannabis oriented when it comes to my stances on things. I think it is one of the largest products in our state that's making money. Last year is a $500 million industry. I think our town is sleeping on that a little bit. You know you guys probably have all seen me at least once. I know me and Mr. McGuire had our run-ins. You know, my personal beliefs is, I know I'm rough around the edges, but when I actually get a position of actual leadership, there's not a better pit bull dog you want on your side. Because I usually won't say this joke, but I'm going to tell this joke anyway. But, just like our president elect, I am too a felon for 4 ounces of cannabis. So I had to come to the diversity and fight for that. That happened about over 10 years ago now, so you can hold it against me or you don't have to, but I have not gotten in trouble since then. And one thing I also want to mention, I guess I have to since you keep bringing it up, Representative McGuire, I respect it. I do have a Instagram with 5,000 followers, which reach about, I think last week's numbers were about 350, 350,00, so 350 K is what I'm reaching at nationwide. My top followers are in the town of Maine, and I also reach New York and LA because I'm also a writer, a freelance writer for what's called Beard Bros Media, which I specialize in writing cannabis policies, politics, local, national, whatever. I've been all over the country to speak on cannabis matters. Now, when it comes to non-cannabis matters, I believe in peoples, not parties. So whatever the town wants me to do, because I'm representing the members of this town, I will listen. So I'm able to because I don't really have a political party. I don't really consider myself a Democrat or a Republican. I consider myself a person of the people. And if I get my emails flooded over an issue, I'm more likely to listen to those people. If these people want to come up here and stand up and talk, I will listen to every single person. And like I said before, I know I'm extremely rough around the edges at times and I'm very opinionated, but this town of Gray right now doesn't need another yes man. The town of Gray needs someone that will kind of push the status quo of what's happening slightly. I think you all have done a great job to a degree, but we also need to have some sort of fire. And one thing special about me, I don't need any paper to write. I don't need any paper to speak. This is what you get. There's no practicing this, there's none of it. It just comes off the whim. So I know I will say maybe a weakness of mine is maybe self-control. But I do understand in a leadership position in the town of Gray that it's a different ballgame. So I will say that right on the nose. I think I gabbled long enough, but if you have any questions, I'll try to crack them as hard as I can. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Thanks, Derek. So you've talked a little bit about, you've talked a lot about your focus on cannabis and your professional experience there. That's really helpful to know. We have just recently kind of expanded our cannabis rules here in Maine to allow for retail medical cannabis venue or shops. Are there other things that you would want to see happen in that realm? And if not, or even if that's something you have in mind, are there other things that you think the town should really be concentrating on?
Yeah, I mean, I think I pitched this before in a non-agenda meeting. The cannabis tourism is, I think Forbes magazine said it was like a $3 billion industry. I'm not looking for these cannabis lounges, people smoking. That's outplayed everywhere. I've seen that all over the country. I think Gray is small, unique, and perfect for new opportunity for new cannabis ideas. And I'll give them one out. I have a million ideas. I ain't scared to give you one. One would be like really focusing, allowing cannabis like bed and breakfasts. So we're allowing people to come in. Or I joked with the state representatives before because I go to the State House very regularly. I would love to see. Oh, actually, I think I was here too. Like a maple syrup sundae of cannabis. Because we do have a lot of small farmers, so anyone that is interested in that, we could literally have a festival of like, hey, these are our small farmers here in Gray, because they are, like I said, no matter how you feel about the plant, it is it beat lobster, blueberries, potatoes. You can quote me on that. So that was in 2023 or 22, but it was still hanging up there with the big dogs of our industry. So I think it's really important that Gray, since it kind of is a blessing because since you guys kind of slept on it, we have an opportunity to do something new and different that maybe other parts of the state haven't seen before. And that's why I think it's a really great idea to not be scared. Let's embrace it and let's bring people in with the new plan of the town. It could all come, it could be great. That's kind of like my vision of it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Krista?
Thanks, Derek. Could you speak a little bit to what your opinion is of the role of the town council?
Yeah, I mean, I think the number one rule is you work for the people. Even my time on ZBA, I hate to say this on mic, I probably stuck my neck out more times than I should have. There's a few instances I can think of that I made sure I stood up for people in gray, non-biasedly as I could, because I just felt like the people in gray, you know, this is who I listen to, no matter what position you were in. I respect you guys all as leaders, but I also bring my own spice to the table as well, which I think we can intermingly be a great relationship, because with my MC, when I was on the Maine Cannabis Coalition, it was a broad spectrum of people. I hate to say this, don't mean to be ageist, but I was the youngest one on that group by about 30 or 25 years. So, you know, for me, it was something that took me a while to get used to. And you know, my personality, I'm a little bit hard to get used to sometimes. But you know, ask anyone that knows me, ask anyone that I've ever represented, they would never want a better pit dog than me to fight for them. And I think that's where we're at in Gray right now. People of Gray want a leader. People of Gray don't want a yes man. They want someone that will say, hey, whoa, before we go do this, let's stop and think for a second. And let's really think about everyone, because, for example, people like in the cannabis community here, you know, we don't feel like we're getting the fair shake sometimes. And recently we've been good, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm standing on that.
Thank you.
No problem.
Mike?
I'm going to reverse. I'm going to ask my first question second, because I got to ask this while I'm thinking of it. All right, so, you know, as Ann just mentioned, we just voted in to have a couple of retail stores. Wyndham has Pot Mile, or whatever they call it. Is that something that you'd like to see in Gray?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
That's why I think it's outplayed. Frankly, this might be unfavorable, but I'm not even a fan of rec. Like, I wouldn't even want rec cannabis in Gray, frankly, if we're being completely transparent. I think it should be medical only. And that's when I think, because medical and how the operators are, they're so small, they're way less of a nuisance. And that's why I kind of plugged in, you know, bed and breakfast, or, you know, there's a million things. A gym, cannabis-friendly gym. You know, they're doing those in the country that no one's doing here in Maine. Like, we are in the Maine, like, it's endless. It's basically, think of anything you want to do and put weed in front of it. We can do it. You know what I mean? And I think, and again, it's not supposed to be every corner, because I think Portland looks ugly right now. I think it looks terrible with a pot store in every corner, and absolutely not for Gray. So that's where I stand on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to my comp plan question. When, in your reading of the comp plan, what parts of that struck you the most?
You know, I'll be honest. Sometimes, like I see that what we're trying to do is short term and long term, and we have some part of the town we're moving too fast for, and some parts of the town we're not moving fast enough for, right? So I think my biggest issue is listening to the people that are truly going to be affected by this, you know, negatively, let's just be blunt, and see how we can balance out the people that are going to be happy. And I don't know what that's going to be. That could be a check or whatever. But we have to make sure that we are respecting the people that made even all of this possible before we move forward. You know, I'm a newbie in Gray. You know, I'm a young gun. But, like, I understand and respect even my elders in this town enough to stop and listen to them and see what I'm missing. And I think sometimes since and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but I think since we have a lot of yes men sometimes on boards, not just this board in general, we miss that a little bit. You know what I mean? So I think it's really going back to listening to what the people are concerned about and how we can make it better for the ones that are concerned.
Can you elaborate a little bit on the too fast in some parts and too slow in others?
I think it's by the person. Right, because you had me up here before yelling at you guys because you didn't change the word marijuana to cannabis in your ordinance. You know what I mean? This was like last year or so. That's me kind of realizing, whoa, I shouldn't be yelling at municipality officials because they're not caught up with state legislation yet. So that was like my bad, because that was kind of me realizing that I was like, oh, it does move slower down here, because I am used to state house stuff, because last year alone there was 36 different cannabis bills that I was in charge of keeping track of and making sure I'm representing the right person for right bills. It was fun. So what I bring differently too is the fact that I have an experience of representing people that actually want to be represented and know what they're going to get when they get me.
Thank you. Ann?
Let's see. I think you've done a good job of describing how your professional experience prepares you to serve as a council member. So I guess the other question is, it sounds like you have a busy schedule during, especially during the legislative session. Would you have time to handle the extra workshops and committee meetings?
Yeah, one thing great about the state of Maine, you can Zoom.
Yeah.
So it's really wonderful because I have a 3-year-old son. So sometimes I don't make it up there as much as or I might miss a bill or something I'll Zoom in on. So no, it won't really affect me at all. I'm already on the zoning board of appeals here. So I don't think I missed a meeting yet. So.
Right, great, thanks.
Same question to you that I've asked others. Do you intend to run for this seat in the June election?
See, I want to say yes, but I do enjoy my time on the zoning board. So that was kind of my tough decision even to plug me in here to do this, because I do understand that if I understand correctly, I obviously can't do both. So I would have to decide when that would come, honestly. I would say yes, but for example, as you know, we're low on ZBA members. One thing I bring too is I get people excited about local governments. I was actually able to bring someone else on to the zoning board, God bless them. And so now we actually do have 4 members. So for me, it's yes. So as long as as long as it doesn't put the ZBA in a so they can quorum still.
Thank you.
And that's a great point. That is a concern, for all of us, is to make sure we don't pull people off of boards. My question to everyone is, why you compared to everybody else?
Well, for me at this point, this is my life has come full circle. I'm just happy for the nomination. In 2012, when I was putting my hands behind handcuffs for a felon for 4 ounces of cannabis, if you told me here I have the opportunity to run to be in my state councilman, I would have laughed in your face. So for me, I'm just frankly happy for the nomination, but I have a track record right now in Gray that sticks up for the Gray residents on the ZBA. And on top of that, I am a man of the people. There's no question about it. Like I said, I don't care what party you are. If your bill or your legislation doesn't make sense, it's going in the trash. You know what I mean? So it's for me, it's one of those things that we, like someone else said, we need to stop putting our parties down and start coming in together as a community. And that's kind of what I bring. There's the no nonsense, let's get it done attitude, and actually getting it done with a track record I have passing several bills in the State House. So,
Thank you.
yes.
Given your Instagram account and
Yes.
the rest of it, are you familiar with the council's rules on social media?
I'll be completely honest with you. I read it when I was sitting right there. So I did read it, and for me, it's like I said, I know I have to sacrifice more than, I don't want to say most when I do this, but my social media is a big part of my life. It does generate money, it generates energy, it generates people showing up at town halls. But I'm willing, because I do believe that the leadership has to be a certain way. I truly do believe that. And I know I can be off kilter at times, but I am willing to make sure that is in check because of the sincerity of this, because I respect the process, you know what I mean?
Councilors don't give up their rights just because they become councilors. So
Right.
it's not a matter of you having to give anything up.
Yeah.
It's a matter of us being clear when we're talking to people what we represent.
Yeah.
And that's really the important part. As I said earlier, myself alone, I have no authority unless I can get the majority of the council to agree with me. And only then can we say we know what the council wants to do. So, all right, any other questions?
No, thank you.
Thanks,
you.
Appreciate your time.
David? Mr. Hall, thank you.
Council members, Manager Foley, thank you for having me here. My name is David Hall. So I didn't have a statement prepared, and these are some tough acts to follow. Trust me. I'm going to do my best. So I'm married. I have 7 grandchildren, 5 children. My mother and father were from Maine, so I was born in California. Please don't hold that against me. So we moved to Maine when I was 10 years old, 1969, and we lived in Leamington, and I lived there and grew up there till I graduated from Bonnie Eagle. Don't hold that against me either. I worked at a shoe shop in Limerick till I went in the Navy. I joined the Navy in show my age, ain't I? 1978. I did 21 years in the Navy. I retired as a Chief Petty Officer. I was a Navy instructor. I was a missile tech on submarines. I know you don't know what that means, but trust me, it was a job. So also, I got lucky when I was in the Navy. I got to facilitate, which is way different than instructing. Instructing, you just tell people stuff and they learn. Facilitating, you have to try to get people involved. So I facilitated this thing called Total Quality Leadership. It was a fiasco for the Navy because it was working in teams. Can you imagine? Think about that, working in teams in the military. Yeah, so it was tough to even get people to buy into this week-long facilitation that I had to do. But this total quality management thing, this works out a little bit later, what I got to say. It improves quality in the processes. So you use statistical process control to analyze data and then use that data to improve processes. So this was brought up by this guy, W.H. Demings. Oh, see, I'm already facilitating this. But this Demings guy, boring. Oh my God, he was boring. He was terrible. So I had to show those films with this guy. It was terrible. Anyway, he took his systems to IBM and a bunch of companies in America, and they all said, no, we can't use that. We don't need it, because everybody else was all bombarded by bombs all through the war. So after the World War II, he goes to IBM and says, oh, you can use this? No, we don't want it. So he takes it to Japan, and guess who's got the best cars now, in my opinion. So anyway, they started with the best quality, and then so it started to work its way back to America. Well, so I retired from the Navy after 21 years, and then I moved to Livermore, Maine, and I was looking for this company that I heard about at a job fair in the Navy. And it had teams working with continuous process improvement using statistical process control. And I found out that Procter & Gamble had it, but I couldn't find that company. But one day, as luck have it, I found a company. It was in Auburn, Maine, right? They make tampons. So I was hired by Procter & Gamble in 1999 after I retired. And they use continuous process improvement using statistical process control. Well, what I learned from Procter & Gamble, they're a great company. They have, it's not an ad for P&G, but they work in teams, one. They gather all kinds of data. All the technicians do this, everybody's gathered data, trying to find little things that's wrong with this process, and they improve it. They come up with their own improvements. They drive the improvements into it, and then the process gets better. They have profit sharing, so everybody gets a piece of the pie. So everybody's motivated to get these things done. So I would bring those things to the council. I know how to work in teams. I can facilitate. I've led teams. I've led special teams to, not special teams, but I've led special projects to get innovations to make the process better. I've worked with the teams. They transferred me to facilities, which is the building, like air conditioning, lights, power, all that stuff. I had a couple budgets. One was $1.25 million. And that was for the contractors that work for us, clean the building. I also had a $6 million budget that I used to run the building and all the, pay the wages, lights, power, taxes. So when I was in Livermore, I lived across the street from the town hall, and one day I walked over there and they had a sign up, and it said they needed planning board members. Well, I didn't know what the planning board did, but I thought that was intriguing, so I said, just like this. I said, I think I'd like to do that. So I talked to the town clerk and I said, I'd like to join the planning board. So I joined the planning board. And I think that was 2002, thereabouts. And I was on the planning board for 3 or 4 years, and then the chairman resigned, retired, and they asked me to be the chairman. So I said, yeah, absolutely. So I did, I was chairman of the planning board for like 4 or 5 years. And I thought that was awesome. That was a lot of different experiences that had come up. So some hobbies I like to do, I like to golf, I watch football, I like to work around the house. I just like to work all the time. It's crazy. And I do have a couple part-time jobs, but I work when I want. I'm retired. I retired from Procter & Gamble after 18 and a half years. I've done a lot of volunteer work. Name a few of them. The Westbrook Food Pantry. I did that for a while. That was great things. Good Shepherd Food Bank in Auburn. Volunteered there. I coach youth basketball, youth football. I coach women's basketball, men's softball, and I also have a bachelor's degree in workforce education and development, if that helps. So those are some things about me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ann?
Wow, interesting background. Thank you. I have a good friend who also retired from P&G and speaks highly of the company. I'm interested in your discussion of the total quality management or the improvement of systems that you talked about. As we've discussed earlier, a lot of what the council does is sort of setting policy and less kind of getting into the weeds on systems, although, there may be opportunities to help with those. I mean, can you just talk about your experience working on policy and setting policy?
Oh, many times. In the military, set policies. We'd have to review our policies all the time, make sure that they were up to date, make sure they're the right things. Same thing as with Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble got me involved in changing policies. They had an employee handbook, and I'd already had a bunch of notes written down on what things that I've already seen wrong with them. Very detail oriented. The comprehensive plan, when I was reading it, I saw an issue with the vision. If you want to talk about this later, I'll talk about that. Procter & Gamble, I did policies on, and I think the employee handbook. There's in the Navy mostly. We had this thing called SCORM, and it was a mess. So we'd have to go through that like once a year, and we'd had a group, and then we would just go through it and highlight the things that were wrong with it.
All right, thanks.
Krista?
Thanks, David. Could you just elaborate a little bit more on your time on the planning board in Livermore and any experiences you had with developing ordinances and work with that?
Yeah, we had a couple of them. One, there was this 9-year-old girl. She had some goats. They were show goats. Well, they got 2 of them died from an animal attack, a dog attack, and the other one was so badly injured that they couldn't show that goat anymore. So the young girl, she was from Livermore. She went to the state legislature and got a law enacted that dangerous dog law where if you have a dangerous dog, you had to keep it tied up or blah, blah. So anyway, she came to us and she said that in order for the state law to be effective, that there had to be an ordinance for the town. So I said, well, we didn't have an ordinance. So I asked her if she would like to work with the town clerk to draft up an ordinance and then bring it back. So she did. And she brought it back and presented it to the council, to the planning board. The planning board had a public meeting, and then we got it enacted. We had, this one was terrible. This one didn't come out too good, but that's the way it goes. We had they had one of those four-wheel drive race track things. It wasn't a track, but it was just back and forth through mud, really loud. Well, they tried to get us to stop putting it in, but there's no ordinance. I follow the ordinance. I was trained in the Navy to follow the ordinances, right? Which you should do. So the ordinance did not say they couldn't put this in. But they tried to get me to not let them do it. I said, well, I don't have anything that tells me they can't. I said, if you want that, you'd have to go to the town and get the ordinance changed so that it reflects that. And I said, I encourage you to do that. I said, it may not be appropriate for this thing, but future. Well, so I said, well, what we could do was put a sound ordinance in. And so we started that process, and I used all my time. I mean, it was all my time that I put in to draft up an ordinance based on all the towns that I could find in the area. Well, not all, but 6 or 7 of them. I took a wide range of them, and I put the bits and pieces in that I thought would be effective in our town. And then we had a public meeting. Disaster. I was on tape, and there was questions, and there was a lot of people there. The room was way smaller than this, and it was just jam-packed with people. And what came out of it was what I said, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bench this, and then we will set this aside. And if anybody can come up with a better idea, then please bring it before the planning board, and we'll work with you. That's where it ended too. So those are the two of the biggest ones.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Those are good examples.
Mike?
Gotta go with the same question. Why you over everybody else?
Well, I don't have any reason for that. I give you whatever I said, and you guys can use. If you think that's the best for this town, choose me. If not, these guys are great guys too. So.
And thank you so much for your service. I meant to say that at the beginning, especially on Veterans Day yesterday.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
My question goes to the comp plan again. In your reading of the comp plan and the goals of the comp plan, was there anything there that struck you more than any other aspect of it as being important?
There's so much in there.
There is.
There is. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, I could go on. Yes. So, why do I want to do this? Well, there's a couple reasons. One, my taxes went up. Money,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Taxes. I want to be involved in that. If I'm going to pay them, yep, I want to be involved in it. I mean, if they're going to go up. I understand that the costs are exploding. I understand inflation hit us hard. It may hit us hard again. I want to be involved in that stuff. That's what I want to be involved in. That's my passion right there, the money. But the other thing was the transfer station, right? It's like the comprehensive plan, the transfer station, transfer station, transfer station, transfer station, right? And then I heard it was going to go away. Why? I want to be involved in that discussion. Sorry, I could go on, but
Well,
there's some things like I'm not as passionate about the rest of it, but there's a lot of stuff in there that I mean, not that I'm not passionate about it, but I'm not as passionate as those two things.
Sure, and just to correct the record, there is no plan for the transfer station to go by.
Well, that's what I heard. So I followed up on that, and I
That's good.
talked to some
I
people.
appreciate
So
that.
I calmed down on that one. But the taxes, I'm not going to calm down on it. I don't like taxes.
I haven't met anyone who does.
Okay.
Ann?
I just to kind of follow up on your discussion of the planning board in Livermore. So it sounds like the planning board in Livermore drove more of the ordinance development, or just you happen to be a particularly active board
It's
chair?
a small town.
Yeah.
You know, like this is the town. No,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. There was like 1,000 people, but you know, there was like, we worked together.
Yeah, okay.
They didn't mind if we did this or did that. I'll tell you one time sorry, it's a story. So I wasn't the chairman yet. This is how I think I became chairman. So this lady had a place on the lake, shoreland zoning, right? It was a touchy subject back when I was doing this. It was, the bigger towns don't have enough, I mean, there's too many people, if you know what I mean, there's too many people, but this small town, this hit a nerve. To me, she didn't follow the ordinance at all. So this boathouse, it degraded to where it fell into the water, right? So what does the ordinance, shoreline ordinance say? You can't rebuild that. It has to be less than 50% total, right? Well, she rebuilt on there, gazebo. Well, there's nothing in the shoreline zone that says that they can build on there. I said, so I read all the ordinances and I know them by heart. And if I didn't know one part, I'd ask Kurt and he'd know, right? So the lady, I said, okay, let's do a site visit. So, no, I didn't say it, the chairman. So we go do a site visit, and this lady's got this field, like twice as big as this room, right? And I said, well, you can move the gazebo up here. And she said, well, this is where we play badminton. Okay, I'm done. So we go back and then we have our vote, and I say, I vote she moves it. And they all, because in the town, small town, nobody wants to hurt anybody's feelings. But I'm just out of the Navy. I was a Navy chief. I hurt people's feelings like every minute, right? So I'm pretty crude, but I'm not like that anymore. I calmed down after P&G honed me in a little bit. So I said, we go to a vote, and I said, I vote she moves it. Just like that, I vote she moves it. And they're like, whoa. So they all voted that it stays. I'm like, okay, well, I'm in the group. I abide by the group's decision. Okay, that's fine. Well, the town, not the town manager, but the selectman, one of the select persons. I think he was in charge, but I'm not sure. So he comes into the room, and he starts yelling at everybody. You guys just set a precedent. I said, yeah. I said, I'm going to leave this room because I didn't do that. So anyway, I think that's how I became chairman.
Good, thank you.
Krista?
Just the same question I've asked everyone else. What are your intentions for this seat in June for the election?
Well, I'll be honest with you. If I think I'm doing a good job, or you guys don't want me here, I leave. But if you say, you're doing a great job, we'd love to have you run, I would do that.
Thank you.
Okay, Mike?
I'm gonna let you go first, I'm gonna go after if you can.
Sure. My question revolves around you've heard it before, the social media aspect and the council's rules. Any issues, do you think, on following that?
No, not at all.
No questions regarding that?
No.
Thank you. I didn't buy you much time.
No, you didn't, but, you know, I'm just trying to think about the best way to phrase it. Thank you so much for your honest answers. I feel like, you know, you were very open about how you felt about certain things, and I definitely appreciate that. You know, how do you feel, you know, you read the ordinance, you know, you saw some things you don't like, whether they were true or not, that's, you know, that's neither here nor there. How would you approach some of those issues if they were to come up while you're sitting on the council? For example, you know, the transfer issue that you brought up. You know, if you did hear that, how would you approach the council about that?
If we were amongst the group,
If you're on the board and that comes up to you as an issue, how would you handle that?
Oh, so I would just start asking questions. How, why will the transfer station, why would you want the transfer station to go away? What is the benefits? What are we gonna, how is that gonna improve the town? Just things like that. I just get curious. I'll keep asking questions till, if it makes sense, you know, because I read something after, I've read more about it, and it went along the lines of, there's too many people now in the town for the transfer station to be able to handle that. Well, I go there every week, well, not every week, every other week or every 3 weeks. And I see that, like, there's no room to get your truck through there sometimes. So I understand that, you know, maybe if we had curbside pickup for, you know, the normal everyday waste, and then we had the transfer station open maybe one day a weekend for, I could see that, for the bulky stuff. No, I could see that. But I didn't even understand, I didn't even think about that until I read it. So, no, that's the way I would approach it. Like,
And there is no wrong answer, by the way, I
just try to understand. You know,
Thank you.
gotta seek to understand, is the way Procter & Gamble used to say it all the time.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yep, you're welcome.
Just so everybody is aware, process-wise, all of the people who are candidates tonight submitted applications and resumes or anything else that they wanted to, which is other information that we have before us to use in making the decision. At this point in the workshop, we will open it to public comment. You don't have to have a comment about a specific candidate. You can have a comment to the council about what you think is important if you want. No one's required to obviously make a comment, but we do have time for that now. Is there anyone that wishes to make public comment? And we'll use our regular rules of 3 minutes per person. Seeing none? Oh, all right, go. Please just state your name and where you live when you come to the mic.
Lacey Atkinson, resident of Gray. I would just say for the candidates who are applying, I saw through the past few years a candidate or a town council member that wasn't very present at the meetings because of work obligations, family health and bucket obligations. It's so important that you are at almost all the meetings. All the meetings would be great. That you go to the committees that you're assigned to and other functions within the state that you might, conferences and networking to learn. So you really have to give this I would think your only attention. And I know other things in our own lives can distract us from maybe something we think is important, which might be this. So just realize that some of these people have other commitments, and I would be concerned that they wouldn't be able to be here as much as you need to be here in this position. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Anyone else from the council have any questions or this? No?
I was just going to have a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to thank everyone for their applications. It's really great to see so much interest. And while we have to pick one of you this evening, hopefully, I would just encourage all of you to stay involved and find other avenues to be participatory in our governance. So thank you for your time.
We have other open positions.
Yes, we do. We have other open positions.
Yeah, lots of committee spots.
Yeah, I just will close by piggybacking on what Krista said. It is a real pleasure to see this much interest in this particular job. In the years that I've run for either the school board or the council, I think at least a third of the time I ran unopposed, which is not the way it's supposed to work. So I do commend everybody for applying, and definitely will make the pitch that we're only going to be able to select one of you this evening, and there are other opportunities for any one of you that isn't selected tonight to continue to be involved, if that's something that you want to do. And often, quite frankly, starting on some of the other committees which have less of a time commitment and energy commitment than the council, it's a good way for somebody to stick their toe in the water and see if this is something they think they might be interested in. So, with that, we will adjourn the workshop and we will reconvene at 7 o'clock for our regularly scheduled meeting. Thank you.
You know,